Fiends, friends, and familiars. This is Macabre Daily here, back again, and this is Matt Orozco, but I'm also joined by Brie. We are back for another Five Nights at Freddy's 101. Brie, thank you so much for coming back to teach another lesson.
Thank you for having me yet again.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Like I said, it's this is something that myself would not know anything about had you not bestowed given taken upon yourself to create such an amazing guide, but also to deliver it with such enthusiasm. So, for those that weren't able to, well, everyone should have been able to. If you haven't watched the first part of this, we're going to do a quick recap, but we'll also link to the video here so that way you can watch it before we get into the next part of this series, which we are hoping to get completed before the release of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 on December 5th, but we'll see. I don't know. There's a lot of material in here, so we're going to get as far as we possibly can. But Bree, are you how are you feeling about this second part?
I'm feeling good. We're finally gonna get to the games, which is what we're all here for. So I'm
Well,
excited.
it's true. We are here for the game because of the games, but I think we're here because we want to know the lore behind these games.
Well, heck
And
yeah, which is a lot more than just games these days.
it is. And as you did such an eloquent job of last week explaining before we even got to an actual video game, there's a lot of backstory, things that have been discovered through completing the games to their fullest extent, picking up all the extras that you possibly can, reading the separate material, things that books that are actually generating and changing entire canons with simple mentions of words. So I'm going to do a quick recap. I'm going to keep me honest though, if there's anything I misrepresent or misstate here. Um,
I
but
believe
in
in you.
essence,
Let's prove what you've learned.
I didn't put this through Chat GPT. I'm saving the
Oh,
trees for something else. But
yes.
essentially, we started all the way back at the founding of Murray Company and Fazbear Entertainment. How those both started in
Fazbear,
Fazbear.
Fazbear.
There we go. Got
This
to say it
this
right.
this special fancy way you say Fazbear needs to stop.
I think I need an extra A in there. It's just the single
You
A just
do.
has me go but it's okay. Um, so Freddy Fazbear for Fazbear Entertainment. So
Yes.
Murray Co. and they're basically two competing companies that end up converging from very different places, building up these amazing animatronics, but also restaurant chains that allow them to host these animatronics. And through a series of different inventions and innovations that are happening, some people resting on their vacuum cleaners gone amok that have been so wildly successful, while others are trying to innovate in the restaurant space. But what eventually happens is that our good friend Murray, old Edwin, he falls on some pretty hard times. He has a family. He has Fiona. Is it Dan? Is that his? Uh,
David, my guy.
David.
David.
Ah,
And guess what? That's a name you need to remember more than Fiona.
well, all right. So David,
Edwin and David are the.
and we got Afton. We got our boy Afton in
We
there.
do. And do you remember his business partner's name by any chance? Because he's going to come up immediately today.
Ah, is it John something? John, like
No, it
John.
certainly is not. It's Henry
Henry,
Emily.
Emily, there it is.
Yes.
Two first names. Okay. So him and Henry Emily, they are the Fazbear Entertainment side of things.
Yes.
Murray Co. is Edwin, Fiona, and David. But of course, as we learn that in the production of these innovations that Edwin's working on, he makes the Mimic One, the first endoskeleton. And then he innovates again with the Mimic 2, but this thing is run amok. It's killing people.
Why?
Um, why? Because it is Fiona. He programmed to be his wife.
That's the
No?
first one. Yeah, okay.
Oh. Because you
Okay.
remember you told me about the scene with the
The
birthday
cake.
cake
Yeah,
and
I made it
you're here.
myself.
Yeah, you're
The
hearing it all through
creepy
the
little
walls.
guy or,
Yeah.
thing, the animatronic. No, M2 is mimics David. And
Okay.
a morning Edwin Murray is grieving so hard at this point. The world's crashing down on him. Fiona was one thing, but David's the other, that he just beats this thing senseless. And that's how it learns to mimic that behavior.
Wow, that is again the Five Nights at Freddy's series is continuing to prove that it is one of the
Yeah.
darkest fucking things that's
We
ever
have
been.
just gotten started too. It's gonna be
I
great.
can see this like twinkle of death in your eye of just
I
like,
got
oh,
it.
we're
Twinkle,
not
twinkle.
we're not even into the fucked up stuff yet, and that's
Yeah,
cool.
it's
So
coming.
what I remember is that the M2 was just this absolute nightmare that they kept sending teams in. Afton kept sending teams in to try and get this thing out, but it kept murdering those teams. And I
Sure
think that's
did.
what brings us to the Secret of the Mimic. Is that
It is, and that's where we're gonna start today. The secret
okay?
of the
Give me a
mimic.
grade. Give me a grade. I require some form of validation for that effort.
You got
And to be honest,
a
because I've
D
mispronounced the
plus,
Fazbear.
A D plus
Okay. Wow.
for the sound effect that I would attribute to that was yeah,
Like
okay.
a sad trombone, kind of?
No,
No.
it's that tinge of disappointment, and then when someone's like, "Yeah, of course," when they want you to feel good.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah, yeah.
great. I
But
appreciate your candor.
I am always transparent about these things. But don't worry because that is like some of the hardest stuff to learn. It's amorphous. It's this random thing that like is changed constantly by games coming out and referencing stuff. And we're gonna recap some of it to start today because of the overlap with Secret of the Mimic. But so Secret of the Mimic marks two uh kind of big deals on our narrative, our chronological narrative, which is one, it's the first game that
In
we're just
chronological
gonna,
order.
yes, that we're gonna just like dive in. Second, it has a literal date. It's not a guess. It's not like I think it happened. People debate it's this year and this. No. So Secret of the Mimic occurs on September 7th and 8th, 1979. Very specific. Um, Largely due to the fact that it's like the newest game. So it's like the most complicated, the deepest, the most game that there is. But we have to make a note before we talk about its narrative, because as a game, and as we kind of went over before, um, these games have various endings.
Yeah.
All of them do. And while only one ending's the real one, every ending teaches us something we need to know about the canon, the larger picture. Again, like we talked last week, the cause to the effect that we're investigating in the game. Now, Secret of the Mimic, unlike most, has all of that pre-exposition we talked about last week, where it's like we kind of know the cause this time, but there's still little things we're going to learn that are going to help us as we move forward. So we have to talk about all the endings of this as we go.
How many endings is the most endings for a Five Nights at Freddy's game?
There's no answer to that because there's a game that we're not going to dive into a lot that has like it's just you can at some point have 50 animatronics active at a time, and each of them has voice lines that teach you a little bit of something if they kill you, and you can't really ever win. Called Ultimate Custom Night, but that's a long ways away.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. Because it's like,
yeah.
fighting games have like, I mean, in theory, every fighter in a fighting
Every
game
character,
has,
yeah.
yeah,
So
every
like
character
ultimate,
has,
when we get to ultimate custom night, that would be like there's, 50 characters. They each have various lines that could teach you something. So if you died all of them 10 times, you might know everything. But no worries because that's not a super narrative story. But anyway, so Five Nights at Freddy's, Secret of the Mimic, which was released just this year in June, follows Fazbear Entertainment technician Arnold, no last name. Recurring theme we're going to come up with as we go is an amorphous for it's Arnold, who's contacted by his supervisor after a shift somewhere else, who we refer to as dispatch. It's just like he's an engineer guy. He gets people call him on the radio. Oh, we have to fix something here. But he gets a new assignment, despite he says, and there's this thing we haven't really gotten into yet, which is like the weird dark humor that FNAF has developed recently, where things are just like exaggerated and like the worst it could be, like. So he says he just finished a 36-hour shift. And dispatch says, great. So you've already proven you're committed, and we love that you're such a hard worker. Here's another thing to do before you go home. Dispatch tells Arnold he's being sent to recover assets created by Edwin Murray, who we know about because we did the pre-exposition, whose lack of communication and as we know, but is discovered in this game, because so much of what we talked about is from this game.
So,
Is
so much of
things
what
we
we learned before came
so
from
much
this.
about Murray Co. Fazbear is from this game. So they say that his lack of communication has legally shifted ownership of the work he was contracted to do back to Fazbear. We know, because we've gone through it in our story so far, that like they preyed on him like heavily and he's in crippling debt, and that's why all these things are being surrendered to Fazbear. Um, but he's tasked with entering the MCM. Do you remember what MCM is? The first M is
There's something
Murray's.
mega. It's a mega something, right? No.
No, the first one is
Murray's
Murray's.
Costume Manor. There it is.
There you go. So he has to enter MCM factory to retrieve company property. Um, and eventually, like a second message or so, dispatch hints that someone or something has been moving throughout the building. And to do so, Arnold's provided this little device, which is called the data diver. And it's something that he has like permissions on, essentially. This whole building runs off permissions in these like terminals. And over the course of the game, he upgrades this data diver through different parts of the factory to eventually reach Edwin Murray's office and download blueprints that Fazbear wants. As Arnold explores, oh, excuse me. Wow. All right. As he explores, he gains higher permissions, allowing him to access increasingly confidential information. And that's how we have stuff like the emails we talked about last time that he finds between Edwin and Michael, or not Michael, Jesus, William Afton, stuff like that. So throughout the night, he continues to communicate with dispatch through this like central security office on the first floor. So every time he gains a new permission or something, he checks in again and says like, you'll hear from dispatch, oh, way to go. Like they're watching you on the cameras. They've seen what's going on. But he learns that the entity moving out throughout the building is believed to be a violent endoskeleton, dispatch says, that can mimic the size and demeanor of anything in the factory, as well as hide in any old suit. Because we talked about how it started with costumes and then it grew into
They could
animatronics
expand and condense
and
the
the
person.
Cleanovac and stuff like all those things. Yeah, we talked about the devices last week. We talked about the mycelium man who could mimic the voices, the coat rack that could change size, the coffee maker that learns to anticipate, like machine learning, learns what you need and replicates it. So dispatch also reveals to Arnold at this time that other technicians have been sent in before him. Just,
Dun dun dun.
vaguely, yeah, vaguely referred to. But Arnold quickly, and again, this isn't like he never is like, oh no, what's this? Because that's not how Freddy games work. As you walk throughout the factory, you can see bodies sticking out of costumes in the corner or over here, like just random arm. Like one of the costume doesn't have a costume arm, it has a person arm like hanging out. And they're all like dressed like you because they're all Fazbear technicians that they're just throwing like chum to this thing, hoping something gets out of there with the blueprints.
So
Upon
get quick gameplay question. So like in I know in the first game, in the first ever game, you're just looking at a screen and you're moving different screens. Has the has the gameplay evolved to this game where like you're
yes,
actually freely moving
so this
throughout
is an open world, like an open Outlast,
the environment?
amnesia style first person game. I don't know what to reference, but I know the type of
Yeah.
things Macabre Daily references. Yeah, so it's like open exploration. You're using cameras, you're sneaking around. You're like, not only are you freely roaming this factory, but so is the mimic all the time.
Gotcha.
You're just constantly stalked by it. Um, So, what was I gonna say? What was I gonna say?
So he just
Um,
found out he's just basically throwing all this chum uh
yes.
to
Oh,
the
yeah. So
mimic.
upon exiting the office, when he finally gets into the factory, because even getting inside is a bit of an ordeal. He goes through like this weird lobby that like people who might potentially want to do business with Murray go through, and there's like a welcome show of all these weird animatronics that like to demonstrate what they can do. He gets to the security office, and as soon as he leaves and starts towards the first destination, a costume, an elephant costume, just bursts through this huge like crate. Like it was like the mimic already is hiding and chasing him, and you immediately have to like run and hide and learn the mechanics of the game in the first like deadly scenario where you're just like, you don't know the factory yet. You just emerged from the first room you've ever really found. And now it's like, great, get past it. And that's the rest of the game's just kind of like that. Um, so the mimic from that moment on just constantly is stalking Arnold. It's like every room you go in is filled with costumes, and one of them's the mimic, and you never know which one until you're a little too close and it moves for you and chases you until you lose it, really. Um, so Arnold explores various wings of the factory. There's all different like parts. And like I was saying, at this point, Five Nights at Freddy's is like real fantastical. It has this crazy lore at this point. It's not like your normal 1970s. This is just like a Freddy's 1970s where they've been
Yeah.
making animatronics this advanced for 20 years and, stuff like that. Um, he attempts to reach throughout the night the executive level wing of the factory to download the mimic's blueprints, and dispatch like hint guides him throughout the night. Uh, and as he explores, he's hunted by the mimic all the time, like I said. But he also begins to unearth the history of the facility, like we've talked about before, and the fates of Fiona, Edwin, David through audio logs, film reels, especially at the end, emails, and the collectibles in this game are toys. They're almost all toys, you know, because this is really the story of David that we're learning most of the time. Like we know Edwin's talking and all that stuff, but like the crux of this thing, the thing that's chasing us, M2, is like it exists for David. It was mimicking David. That's how we got here. So the history includes a lot of what we discussed above, but it also infers, which we dipped into last time, a more supernatural element to those preceding events. If you remember, we talked last week that it's very much a gray area on purpose whether or not M1 was mimicking Fiona
Or was haunted by, yeah.
or a little bit more, because of all the things that aren't confirmed about this series, one thing that is confirmed is that that happens. You know what I mean? And anyone who's seen the movie, which I know you still haven't, is like,
Still haven't.
it's just the plot of the movie. Like they don't pretend there's no mystery from the from the moment it starts. They're like, there's little kid iterations that like look like, that match key attributes of these animatronics that people are seeing when they dream and stuff like that. So it's not, the twist in this is almost like people are more like they might be tricking us. It might not be haunted. Like it's like this like crazy backward
Reverse
scenario
psychology.
now. Now that we're this far into the series, they're like maybe it's not, and that's the secret of the mimic. But yeah, so this edition, like I said last time, just to go over for new people, created like two major debates within the fan base, and it's whether Fiona possessed the M1 animatronic, leading to it like that's why it so naturally became her replacement, or whether now we're gonna start diving into David's soul is present in the factory because we're going to start seeing something. Arnold's going to start seeing something that does not belong and does not follow the rules of Five Nights at Freddy's in general. So I just need to take a sip of my coffee before we get there.
Yeah.
Any questions?
I mean, so far, no questions, but I think what continues to prove true is that there's so much more to this than it seems. And so I think it's really quite, I don't know, it's pretty admirable, I guess, the level of attention to detail and lore that's being paid to this. Um, so yeah, I'm good for more.
All right, so we talked a bit about the mimic story last time. And something that's very present throughout the story, something that in the story really sets off Edwin, because we talked about that's the first thing we ever learned. The story of the mimic is Edwin beats the crap out of this robot because it mimics David. Um, and that is the fact that David, when he was alive, had this stuffed animal that he was never without. And it's a white tiger, it's called. It has one green eye, one blue eye, little white tiger. It's present in the game as a collectible the second time you play it. But Arnold, um, I don't know, a couple hours into the game, sees a huge, like a costume that looks like it, is what I would say it's supposed to look like. A very large
Like a
iteration of
person
this.
size.
Yes. And at this point, Arnold's seeing all kinds of costumes, so you don't really question it, but it disappears in front of him. You walk towards it and it's gone. It's not physical. And it starts the debate on whether David's soul is present as well. There's like echoey, staticky, like children's giggling whenever it's nearby. But it's never like when it's depicted, it's not hostile. At these times, it's just like you hear the giggle, and when you're just getting close enough to see it clearly, it's gone. And they never like, nobody's ever talking about it. There's not audio logs about it. There's not anything. It's just this little extra thing that's meant to be like, what's that? And if you haven't read the story, you're really like, what's that? But he sees this white tiger costume uh, at a really important time that we're about to talk about. But actually, we talked about it last time a little bit. I told you that there was like this enormous other than the mimics, this program Murray's Costume Manor had created that was going to
Yeah, it
like
was the thing that could
revolutionize their
control.
restaurants. Yeah,
Like,
which is the stage manager.
yeah, that's it.
And it's at the time in the game when you're about to discover the stage manager that you see the white tiger backstage. So it's like right before you're getting into like the stuff created around that time that all that stuff happened and but it's really interesting. But as Arnold, once he acquires the blueprints of the prototype of the mimic, he speaks one last time to Dispatch, uh, and this is actually the end. So like as he goes through, there's like, you run into them in like a lot of ways, but there's like major villains or boss fights that he goes up against. One's a Jack in the Box called Jackie, the other one's like a nurse. And there's all kinds of weird lore sprinkled in, like I said, like last time. This is FNAF 101, but there is a 201 version even of this that's quite a bit more detailed. We're just jumping right to the end. But there's like, for instance, canonically in this game, you discover that like Edwin Murray created the concept of recycling.
Huh. It's a bold claim.
Yes, and he comes up with the saying going green, but not because it's good for the planet, but because it is such a good like money making idea to have people to you save so much money that you're going green.
I
So
guess an
yeah, so
alternative
that's like the
history,
humor. That's the humor of the series. But anyways, you get to the end and you're like, I got it all. I got the prototype, right? You just got chased by the mimic out of the office after you do it, like this big like chase, and it really feels conclusive. But the dispatch is like, great, you did it, Uh, I want you to use this thing in the office, which during the game you use. It's like you remember like at the bank, like back in the day, you'd put the money
yeah,
in
those
the thing and
tubes.
yeah, it's like that. It's like how they send mail and stuff throughout the factory. He's like, put the data diver in here, send it to me, and then you can leave, you know. Um, and you
I bet
have
he's not gonna leave.
you have various choices here, and this is where our endings come from. There's three of them. Um, but there's two main ones, and then one of them has also a bonus ending because that's how these games kind of work. There's like the bad ending, the true ending, and then there's like the super secret lore-ish ending of the game. So we're going to talk about each of these three real fast. So if Arnold complies, right? If you're like, I'm playing this game like Arnold would, and I want to get the hell out of Murray's Costume Manor, um, he sends the data diver through the machine and then just walks to his van. Like, just a happy, he's
Oh,
free.
they let
He's
him
free to
go?
go. Yeah,
Wow. Was not expecting
right.
that.
Um, but while driving away, it cuts to him driving away. Arnold gets a call over the radio, and it is dispatch, and dispatch is flipping the hell out at him. Um, and it's really jarring. You get static, and then it's like, Arnold, Arnold, are you there? And he's like, yeah, we just talked a second ago. And the guy asks where he's been all night. You haven't answered your radio all night. Where have you been? We were counting on you. And Arnold attempts to explain. He says, we've been talking all night. And that you just told me to send you the data diver through the transport system. And dispatch is like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. But did you just say you sent our property to someone else? In that case, like, don't show up to work tomorrow. Forget you ever worked
Whoa.
here, and our legal team will be contacting you soon. And they
Damn.
just hang up, right? And then you hear a sound in the back of the van, and you turn around, and the mimic's in there. The mimic escaped through your van, and it like seemingly kills Arnold.
So that's the good ending? Was the bad
No,
ending? Okay.
that's the like I followed the rules ending of the game. Right?
Nice.
That's the
Okay.
like dispatch told me to do this when I came here and I did it. Now I want to leave. This is like if Arnold was a real person ending, I would is what I would call it. If Arnold's
Damn.
just like, I'm now, been here for 6 extra hours. I've had a 42-hour shift. I want to go home ending. Um, if Arnold chooses not to send the data diver, he sees during this communication while using the data diver in the terminal to talk, because it basically is used for everything, um, that he can run a program he downloaded along with the blueprints, which is called Cradle, or no, Parachute.exe. It's called because it's like, old programs.exe, leading to what fans believe very hard to be the game's real ending. And it's crazy. It's like another hour, hour and a half, 2 hours of game if you
Oh,
choose this.
cool.
Yeah, because that's how it goes in these games. We'll talk about it in Security Breach. It's bananas. But the program opens a secret passageway inside the security office, like the couch that's in there, like moves away and a hatch opens on the ground. And Arnold escapes the room with the data diver, at which point dispatch reveals itself to be a complete impersonation because it was never dispatched to begin with. Um, and as Arnold moves in the walls, uh, like, between the walls and the little tunnels of the factory going deeper and deeper down, dispatch is just berating him. Dispatch is dropping some just cold lines of just like, you're gonna die. Like, there's been many before you and none of them survived, and you're not gonna survive. And
So is
one
it
of
the
my
mimic?
favorite, we'll get there. So, one of the coldest things, because we talked about like a cold line last time, which is what M2 said to Edwin Murray when he was just like dying. But M1's like, I wonder what it'll be for you. Like, I will it be this costume, like the jester? Well, that would be funny. Would it be the bee? That would be, like all these different things. And while you're just like tunneling for your life, this thing's just like watching you on all the cameras. Oh, I wouldn't turn that way. Oh, like you're just like completely terrorized by this thing. But Arnold eventually reaches something we discussed briefly last time, uh, a whole different floor of Murray's Custom Manor, which is underground, which is research and development. Um, and that's where he discovers incomplete prototypes um, of various animatronics and a near replica of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which, we haven't seen yet chronologically, but as it appears in FNAF 1. We talked last time about how they were commissioning all kinds of things, and there was a new type of spring lock suit they like advancements they had made. This is where you find that in the game. So at no point in the actual game, if you played it the right way, would you have ever seen this. And that's very
Huh.
indicative of this series. The deeper you go, they just start to sprinkle the important stuff. Arnold eventually uses Edwin's improved spring lock prototypes to move around research and development while the mimic tries to find him. So you jump into a suit and you walk over here, and it slightly starts to mimic. You do, because I know mimic is like a big word in this part of the story. You walk to different parts, and it depletes the overall power of the floor uh, with dispatch trying to find you. Where it's like it watched you go over here, so now it's like turning on all these cameras and it's turning on all these lights, and you deplete the power by using two key suits to walk around and get to certain places where it's like tunnel focus that tries to close you off with doors, and closing those doors, much like FNAF 1, depletes its power. But along the way, you discover a Fredbear prototype and the Yellow Rabbit prototype, like some like big lore things that we talked about last time. Eventually, Dispatch gives up because you've depleted all the power. And different doors that were closed the whole time open. Um, and it's then that Arnold exits the springlock suits and enters a hidden room where he meets F10-N4, which is something we talked about last time, which
Fiona.
is,
Yeah.
yes, where the program was put into after Edwin was going crazy. And it turns out that's who Dispatch has been the whole time, not M2. It's been Fiona trying to stop people from taking the plans for M2 out of the factory alive. Um, so they'd been impersonating dispatch since the very first call. Like, you get called in your car at the beginning to go to the factory, and never again have you heard from dispatch. You've only heard from Fiona. And Fiona hasn't been watching you to track you throughout the factory. Fiona's been watching you to send all kinds of threats your way to stop you from leaving. Right. So when dispatch was like, wow, I saw that Jack in the Box try to get you. And Fiona's like, damn it. The next place you have to go is this place to get this. And she sends you to more and more dangerous things. And that's why at the end, she gets the data, like she convinces you to basically like you succeed, and you still sent it to her before you left. So like
Yeah.
she's,
Her mission accomplished for
you know,
her.
um F10-N4 Fiona, let's just call it Fiona, reveals that she's been guiding technicians to the facility. Um, Also, though, kill a lot of them have died, but she's also been using some of them in an attempt to contact Edwin because she hasn't seen Edwin in the factory for so long. Um, if you remember last time, Fiona became so motherly that her wants for M2 became individual, separate from Edwin. And now she confides in you that she's been trying to get in contact with Edwin so that he'll fix M2. And Fiona tells Arnold that convincing Edwin to fix M2 is the only scenario in which she lets him leave alive. Right?
So
So
now we
at
have to
this,
find Edwin.
right. So it turns out that there's this system of tunnels, this little, almost like a ride, that Edwin uses to move from his house on the hill into the factory back and forth every day. And you use it to go to his house. So you leave the factory entirely. You're going, she said, he hasn't been in the factory so long. She sends you to the house, which is the place where you start, he uses the underground access tunnels to enter the house, and solves this puzzle because there's like a big lock on Murray's office. And the way you solve this puzzle is by finding film reels that show home movies that Edwin had shot that he based the lock off of. All of them are of birthdays of David's, which we discussed last time briefly.
Yeah.
And this is
The
where
last
in the
birthday is the one where he's,
the
yeah, the cake
final
one.
of these videos is the reveal that like M1 totally replaced Fiona, and that everyone was just like, okay, like you're the best, go get David. And after that video that David has died. Like, what happened. It's been heavily inferred that like that's what the day David dies. Um, so eventually he gets this code. Uh, and he gets to Murray's office in this ending. When you go in you use that code and you go to Edwin's office. And he learns through, you know, you walk, it's like 2 floors. So you walk in the bottom one, there's this big model that looks wonderful of the factory, and it just looks like somebody's workshop because he's a creator. But then you walk up the stairs to a room that's a desk and just open sky behind it. There's no wall, there's no roof. That's been wiped off the face of the earth, this office behind from the desk onward. Um, and you see what you've seen throughout the game, which is this little audio log machine. You push play on it and you hear Edwin talking. And he's like, wow, I sure need to come up with some new inventions. Unfortunately, there was a mishap in my office. Maybe I'll add something to the Cleanovac. And then in the background, you hear Edwin go help, like M2 help me. And we talked about this last time, and M2 just stops dropping the most antagonizing quotes Edwin's used in his entire life. He's not now, buddy. Daddy's working. Maybe ask your mom. Like this
Yeah.
just ice cold stuff. But you learn M2 triggered a big explosion and like fixed itself after Edwin beat it up, before leaving him to die in the rubble. So with no other option but to move forward, Edwin um, activates like a secret door in the office through because the desk is still there. He turns like this knob in the terminal. It opens like a bookcase thing to like Edwin's like back surveillance room. There was one in the factory and there's one in his house. And he downloads another program. The one that we discover it's one that Fiona had sent to Edwin that would like restrict M2's like violent behavior. It's called cradle.exe, right? It's a cradle for David. It keeps him in
Okay.
check. Yeah, and it's what she's been dying for Edwin to use like reverse the path that M2's on and eventually bring the family back together. But downloading it begins a self-destruct sequence in the factory and the
As
house.
it does, as those things do,
Yeah, as it does, it's booby trapped, leading Arnold to flee back to his van. You flee through the tunnels, you're chased the whole time by M2. Um, and when you're again driving away, all these little things that the mimic has like infected, all these weird little inventions are like holding onto your car, and there's like blenders and trash cans and like all the different things that this like virus has spread throughout the mimic, which we'll get to again later. Uh, and Arnold thinks he gets safe, and then all of a sudden, from the top of his car, looks down M2, and M2 punches through the windshield and grabs the steering wheel and crashes the car. Um, and from the perspective of Ed, when you're laying there and it's on fire, and M2 basically lifts the car, reaches in like it's gonna kill you, and then just takes the data diver itself and walks away. And Arnold's just in the car that's upside down on fire and fade to credits. That's
Well,
this
Arnold really
ending.
gets gets hosed in both these endings.
He really does.
So this
Uh,
isn't even the secret super like the secret lore ending.
no, this is just if you dug a little
This is
deeper.
the true ending.
Believed to be, yes. If players, which is only possible the second time you play it from beginning to end, it should be also noted that every time when you get this ending of the game, you can't ever continue that file of the game again. It's not like there's no chapters, there's no nothing. It's New Game Plus is the only option. No going back, no watching it again, right? New Game Plus. And you play New Game Plus, and when you get to the office the very first time, before you ever see the mimic, there's a gift box on the desk. And it's like kind of like a jack in the box. You turn the knob, open, the box pops open, and there's a new collectible, the white tiger plush.
With the two different colored eyes.
Yes, it's the final thing. And it carries over any collectibles you had before. So it's like if you got everything, this is the last thing, but you got to get to the end of the game again. Once all 25 collectibles are attained, uh, you play this game on the computer in the security office called moon.exe, which operates as like an old, um, how can I say it? Almost like how old like floppy disk RPG games were, where it's like
You
you
like
type
type it in?
turn left,
Yeah.
explore the
Is that one
bookshelf.
called like Zool, I think it was, or something
You,
like that?
you know,
Or
stuff like
Loom, yeah,
that.
Loom, yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's all through clicks. You click options in it. And it turns into this like a very lengthy thing where every collectible you found is an item in this game that you can use to progress further and further. So like if you found um a knife, you could cut a branch in the game. Use the knife, cut the branch. If you found like a cowboy hat, like, or if you found a pizza, give the pizza to this thing and it'll be distracted. Put this mask on and this bad guy won't kill you. Like all things you found throughout the game.
Assuming that you
Eventually,
won't be able to beat this game unless you have all the collectibles,
you
right?
can't. You
Yeah.
can't. Um, Eventually you make your way to the end where you basically meet a manifestation of like Fiona in the game. And the thing that's antagonizing you the whole time is called Moon, which is a character fans would know has a history with the more modern FNAF games. But as far as it pertains to this, Moon is Edwin, basically personified, and Sun, this character you meet at the end, is Fiona. And when you meet Fiona in the game, you give her various items, and she says they need fixed, and you fix them. It's like that recurring theme of fixing these things, putting them back to how they were supposed to be. And if you fix all the things, you then play a text-based adventure that recaps the whole game that you just like of Secret of the Mimic. So it'll be like, you found the Jack in the Box. The Jack in the Box wanted you to do this. But the things you do for each of the animatronics in the text game is like heal them. You gave it the
Hmm.
thing it wanted. It's pacified. You can go to the next thing. You found, Nurse Dolly, the nurse animatronic that the Mimic was in later in the game, and you fixed its toys. You helped it fix these robots. Now it has no patience left. It's fulfilled. You can move on. And you do that all the way to the end again. Um, and when you finish the whole thing, you get a crazy new permission in the data diver, which is called the glitched executive permission. And you don't know what it's for. And it has no purpose at all in the factory for the whole rest of the game. You just play the whole game like you did before, all the way to the end, all the way to the choice of like, do I send the data diver? Do I not send the data diver? Um, and you do the parachute.exe ending, you do research and development, you see Fiona again. Fiona sends you to the house, and the glitched permission opens locked doors in Edwin's house. And as you do that, you start collecting a new thing to reach a new ending, which instead of films, rather, you are collecting audio tapes and you don't know what they're for. And you collect six, I forget if it's six or eight, Sorry, FNAF fans, you know.
Yeah,
Uh
don't come get
yeah,
Brie.
sorry, it's late. I've been thinking about this forever. You put them all in the machines, like you put them in like 6 to 8 tape players, and it opens a vent in the room that you're putting these tapes in. You crawl through the vent and you reach David's bedroom in Murray's house. And you see this like automated storytelling machine, this little podium next to the bed. And the podium has a picture of a tiger on it. So you go back to like the mail room machine, which there just happens to be one in Murray's house. And you get the factory where you put all the stuff into mail the white tiger plush you got at the beginning of New Game Plus to you, and you put it on the pedestal and it starts a story. And as soon as it says, yeah, that machine's like, hey, it's bedtime. Where's David? David. And little lights flicker across from you in the closet of David's bedroom. The doors open and M2 comes out, but it's little. And then it gets mad and it gets big, back to the angry one that's trying to kill you. And as it gets closer and closer, you have to hit this correct sequence of a bedtime story.
Like a quick time.
No. Like a
No?
very in universe, like every time the thing goes little, because you told it the right part of the story, it gets big again and it lunges at you, and real quick you have to be like, what's the next one? Boom. And you have to hit it. And
Oh,
you
okay.
can learn this from context clues in the bedroom. Like there's a poster that has, again, allusions to like Freddy things. It's like, oh, the poster has animals on it. The order of the animals is bear, fox, rabbit, chicken. And that's the order of buttons you're going to hit on the story thing, you know?
Gotcha.
And the story's like, it's different every time I've played it, which I think is fun. That the story's been different because the order has been different and it makes up a different story for the different animals. But
Huh.
at the end it's going to be like all of the animals were good except one was grumpy and wanted to do this like violent thing, or like it hit the other one, and that was wrong. Violence is wrong, you know. But they all forgave each other and they became best friends and they all started a band. The end. Like it's just like this little kid story, but getting the whole story right kind of short circuits M2 right when it's about to get you. Because no matter what, if you do it right, still it gets like this close. It's like looming over you and then it breaks and this panel opens and you can stick the data diver into the panel with the glitch permissions and reset M2 entirely. And you see it like just turn off and
So
then
do
turn
you
back on,
pacify
and
it?
then it turns little again and it stays David. And it's the saddest shit in the world because this game, nothing's positive about Five Nights at Freddy's. Like even this ending is like, that the mom's dead, that the dad's dead, this robot is not alive. You know what I mean? But it gets the plush off the storytelling machine and it walks over to its bed and it lays on its bed and it says, I love you, and it turns off forever.
Wow, that's fucked.
I know. And
Wow.
the I love you it's saying is because the story is a recording of Fiona and it's just talking to them. Thinking, you know. And it's like,
Wow.
and
So
then
Arnold either
roll
dies or gets
credits.
PTSD. Like
Yeah.
there's no good way out for
Yes.
Arnold in this
Yeah.
situation.
So those are our endings. Um, but we know that's not the real ending because the mimic is everywhere in the series, and this just happens to be the first time that it's in a game right there. But we know because they had to go back and tell us the story of the mimic that obviously it doesn't end there because it's an
We have
origin
an
story for
entire
something
yeah.
way later. But let's fast forward. That's the longest part of the whole chronological story because that's the newest, most complicated story-driven game. So now we're just back to the nice ones that are real short. So let's break into those. Now we're jumping to 1983, back into like what we would consider like the core of the series. for the long run of how while it's been in existence. So fans believe, we've kind of talked on this a little bit, that in 1983, the success of Fredbear's Family Diner spawns Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and a restaurant where animatronics could venture beyond the stage. That's its big move. That's its big uh, claim to fame. Now, given Secret of the Mimic, we now know that like it's a little more complicated how that happened, and they've, ruined Murray Co. and all this stuff for it. But regardless of all of that, fans know that Afton and Henry Emily acquired these key characters in emergent technologies from Murray Co. because we know some of them are original to Murray Co. like Chica and Foxy and Roxy,
So
Monty Gator.
does Afton know that Murray's dead, that Edwin's dead? He thinks he's
No,
alive.
they don't care because he's ruined. They own everything he ever
Oh,
did.
I was gonna say, okay, so like
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there's no like, there's
I
no
think I
more
told you
like
earlier
Murray.
that it's like heavily inferred that like Afton doesn't just ruin Edwin, he buys the land.
Okay,
He uses the house. Okay, like, and that's going to come up now that we've had that baseline as we move down. So, due to the success of these emergent technologies, and this is a little bit of hearsay because we're going to mix old and new here, people believe that William, either installs cameras in his home to watch his children, or he like freaking lives in Murray's house. That's the debate right now because an entire game takes place in the bedroom we discover is David's in Secret of the Mimic, which we're going to get to in our net. That's the next game we're going to talk about. But, anyways, we know he puts cameras throughout wherever he does live to watch his kids, including his youngest son, who is deathly afraid of animatronics.
oh,
Deathly afraid,
perfect,
particularly Fredbear, the yellow bear. And
perfect
during this
pairing.
child's birthday party, at some point, Michael, Afton's older son, plays a prank on his brother who hates this animatronic. Him and his friends all wearing various masks that are like, because they're at like a party. This young boy's birthday party, many believe, uh, lift him up to the Fredbear animatronic. They're like, let's get him nice and close. Basically, he's always depicted this kid as a crying. He's always crying. His brother pranks him at home. He is throughout mini games in this next game we're going to talk about. But they prank his brother, placing his head in Fredbear's mouth. And then to everyone's shock, and it's like the first real graphic thing in the series, the child's wiggling while trying to get out of the mouth makes the animatronic's jaw clamp down and crush his head and kill him.
So this is Afton's youngest son.
Yes.
What's his name?
We don't know.
I'm just gonna call him
I'm not, I'm
Mikey.
not, I'm not up for hearsay. So, uh,
Damn, they
yeah,
did mini Afton
people
dirty.
think there's names, but I'm like, I'm sticking to the facts. But this event is part of a variety of mini games featured in Five Nights at Freddy's 4. It's believed that sometime later in 1983, Afton kills Charlie Emily, daughter of Henry Emily, as revenge for his own child's death after she was locked outside of the restaurant during like a party. Could be the same party. Who knows? Probably not. But her spirit goes on to possess an animatronic that was used for security, which was the puppet animatronic, which is something very important, especially since you want this whole series to kind of be a precursor to the FNAF 2 movie. And the puppet plays a
Well,
very big part in that.
I feel like I mean, once we get to the end of this, I'd be interested to hear how Blumhouse and Universal kind of took what has existed to create, because I imagine, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, that like the FNAF movies exist as kind of a parallel to this.
Mhm.
They're not necessarily trying to like be a
Much like
part
the
of
books.
canon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. But anyway, let's keep going. I don't want to not get far again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
FNAF 4. All right, sometime between 1983 1984 is where we're at now. And we're also going to talk about a story because FNAF 4 had a canon everybody really thought was sure until a book, 8 years later took a big old dump on everything you believed in. But for years, fans believed that Five Nights at Freddy's 4 featured a story in which a child is haunted by grotesque, terrifying, nightmarish versions of the FNAF animatronics, including Chica, Bonnie, Freddy, Foxy, Fredbear, the animatronics of that era. It's, you know, the original
The
FNAF
OG
games.
crew.
Uh, yes, and people are like, this is Afton's youngest son. Maybe this is him dying. Like there's like little hints to it. Like sometimes when you play it, there's an IV drip next to the bed. Sometimes there's a get well soon cards on the desk, like because it's Five Nights at these are the classic Five Nights at Freddy's games. There's 5 nights and the little things change in the environment every night. But then, they just had to complicate it in 2023. This book here, which is called B
Tales from the
Sets
Pizzaplex,
2. Yes, Tales of the Pizzaplex 8.
which is the second. This is the second version of short
The
stories, right?
second full volume of short stories.
Yes.
The eighth in that series has a single story in it called Didophobia, where that seemingly threw all of this into question, right? So the story follows this 7-year-old boy named Rory who awakes to find his bedroom under attack by nightmarish creatures every night. He sees a decaying fox in his closet, which is something you find in the game. Foxes in the closet in FNAF 4. A yellow chick from the right hallway, a purple bunny from the left, and all of them look like monsters, look like unreal, impossible things. Every night, Roy flees to his bed, but is soon attacked by a massive bear that emerges from beneath the bed itself, which is where Freddy is in FNAF 4. So it's like this seems pretty heavy-handed. Uh, Mind you, this is also the series that introduced the Mimic. So like
Right.
we're starting to think like, oh, this could be real stuff. This series of events mirrors the gameplay of FNAF 4, uh, but it doesn't stop there. And this is where we're gonna get a little complicated because they start dropping stuff that's like you gotta have that deep knowledge of a bunch to like really pick up on, but we're gonna try to dumb it down 101 for my friend Matt here.
We are going to 101 it for
Right?
me. I am the
One
layperson.
day, Rory awakens to find that he slept peacefully through the whole night. Okay? No attacks, no animatronics. He's can't remember. Has there ever been a night where he didn't have the same recurring nightmare? Not to his knowledge. But to his horror, wiping the sleepies away from his eyes, right? He notices everything is different around him. This pristine house that he has lived in his whole childhood is in a state of decay, as if decades have passed. Eventually, Rory begins to explore the house, discovering a series of silly mechanisms that are operating mannequins with scary costumes on behind hidden doors and hidden hallways and hidden things throughout this house. Like it's not a house at all, right? Uh, It's some kind of facility. Okay. He discovers tunnels, a secret door in his refrigerator that has tunnels behind it. Exploring these tunnels, he discovers these big empty canisters everywhere. Big canisters with mysterious gas leaking out of them, which feeds into tubes that connect throughout the whole house. And it's revealed that these tunnels connect even deeper to an underground series of corridors that go different places.
Like the
Um,
factory.
you're catching on a little bit, but at
Yeah.
this time we're thinking like a place we experience in Five Nights at Freddy's 5 sister location called Circus Babies Entertainment and Rentals, which we'll talk about in a second. But what it's telling you is these things are all linked together. And this is long, this is 2 years before Secret of the Mimic. But now you're starting to see how this world works,
Right.
where you're just like, well, if the bedroom's the same as Edwin's house, and these tunnels connect to a facility, we're mapping something at this point. But Didophobia and FNAF 4 have massive importance to the timeline, right? Like you just said, as they reveal one of the earliest examples of William Afton, if Didophobia is real, right? And if Didophobia takes place in the time we thought FNAF 4 did originally, because that means this guy's been here since he was a kid, automated in this thing. Uh, it's the earliest example of William Afton experimenting on children. It's the first time when he's testing something freaking maniacal, right? Because we never know why Afton's doing stuff in the old games. They're just like, he's a serial killer. You know what I mean? But later games and books hint that there's like this other stuff. But this would be the first example of him like going out of his way to be like, what would happen if I subjected someone to this every day? What can I learn about the spirit, about in it, about the ghost, about the hauntings, stuff like that. Um, and he's devising methods through which to capture and manipulate kids, which is something that comes up in Sister Location a ton. Like these really feed into each other. It
Oh,
also
this Afton guy.
places, yeah, he's an ass. It also places the creation of Circus Baby and Funtime animatronics, the animatronics that are there, earlier on the timeline than people think the game happened. So it gives you a little bit of history. Um, and we could talk about it a little because they're never in the game. They're in a book series, again, which we think are parallels, but we learn together
I mean, the
from,
books are officially licensed, right?
yes,
Yeah, so like it's
yeah,
it's
but
canon,
they're
you know, it's
never
like
real. They're kind of real. Um, but so Circus Baby and is an animatronic, and her band, quote unquote, the line of animatronics at her time are called the Fun Time animatronics, are unlike anything that has come before, because they were created with hidden mechanisms to capture children.
wow,
Like you can
that's
find their blueprints in other games where like there's literally like an example of where a child would fit in the blueprint. In the stomach of this one, there's a big open thing to keep them alive, but also keep them trapped. It's like stuff gets out of hand around this time historically. Um, but there's a problem. There's a big old problem with these animatronics, which is that they are adorable. They are not scary at all. They're not felt. They're not little felt things. They're circusy. They're colorful. They're all white and they have big circle purple or red cheeks. Like, you know what I mean? They're meant
hmm
to lure children. And Afton's daughter, Elizabeth, develops a massive affinity for Circus Baby, the leader of this band, um, who she is outright forbidden from approaching at all times.
the
Uh,
circus lady. I'm assuming would not know the difference between Elizabeth and any other kid, or
Yeah, just a kid. Yeah.
yeah.
And this again is from Sister Location, which hasn't happened yet, but we know it from Sister Location because that's an effect we investigate, and this is a cause. Um, we hear Elizabeth being like, and first of all, they're British. I don't know why. Well, the Aftons are British, so this little British girl, one of the like one of the first truly voice acted roles in the whole series, because Sister Location's revolutionary for the series. Um, it's just a black screen showing Circus Baby, and you hear a little girl like, "But Daddy, why can't I play with her? You let all the other kids play with her. Why is it just me that can't?" So jealous of the other children who spend all their time with Circus Baby, Elizabeth approaches it in secret one night, resulting in her death. Circus Baby, it's alluded to in a mini game, uh, lures her with an ice cream cone, and then like a big arm thing, like a big like claw thing comes out of its stomach and kills her. Um, so Circus Baby's Pizza World, the restaurant these things are made for, never opens because this happens before. And Afton
I mean,
covers
what
up his,
animatronic hasn't started with a dead kid?
yeah,
That's
yeah, at this
just
point. Afton covers up this whole thing with a story about a gas leak ruining the restaurant. And this is something that's kind of a parallel, if true, from again this original series of books where that we mentioned last week. Don't have a ton of meaning for the series, but it is where we first ever heard of William Afton and Henry Emily. That's their major contribution. And it's one of the only times anyone gives two hoots about Circus Baby and telling any kind of story with it. So people take it really seriously. But jumping, we got a little more time to 1985 so we can, excuse me, continue with Five Nights at Freddy's 2 next time. That's where we're going to hit the top appropriately. Afton, he just goes a little nuts. In June of 1985, while never seen in the game, the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza that we described above was extremely successful. We never see it successful because, like I said, we just rummage through the aftermath of things in the series. That is until June 1985. It's during this month that William Afton lures five children to the back room of Freddy Fazbear's, kills them, and then stuffs their bodies into animatronic springlock suits. And this is the first multi-casualty event contributed to Afton. Uh, and it has a name that it's always had a name. It's important to know the name. It's called the Missing Children Incident, MCI, in Five Nights at Freddy's. It is one of the series' most thoroughly depicted incidents, explicitly shown in various mediums. Like this could be a book, this could be a spin-off game, this could be the mainline games. Uh, and it's not changing the fact that this is exactly what happens around this time. Uh,
It's
so
fucking
it's
dark.
yeah, just a little. Um, this event is like what all FNAF theories are built upon. This was the first thing. This is the first hinted at mystery in the series. It's hinted at heavily in the first one through background posters and stuff like that that change every once in a while when you click on a camera. Um,
So
but
is it
it's
not until the
revealed
fourth game that you figure this part out that they explain
no,
the
so we're a little
connection?
past that. We're past the
Okay.
fourth game because that was in 1983, 84. We're in 85 now. This is him. This thing happens. He starts to go a little bananas, right? Um, it's revealed in mini games of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which we're about to come up on. Again, since it's the aftermath of something, we're talking about what happened in it now. Uh, that the puppet animatronic, Charlie, uh, gives new life somehow to these murdered children. There's this mini game called Give Gifts, Give Life, where you play as the puppet in like this 8-bit mini game, and you take presents to these bodies, each wearing a mask of a different animatronic. And
Hmm.
somehow that is depicting the puppet somehow giving life to these bodies in the animatronics, leading to their possession. Um, and it's crazy, crazy.
So the
But
series does dabbles back in supernatural again.
oh, it's the origins of the series are like crazy supernatural. That's why it's so interesting in Secret of the Mimic, where the debate isn't like, oh my gosh, that's crazy, it's possessed. It's like, wait a second, twist. What
Is
if
it
it's
possessed?
not? What if it's not possessed? What if it's just mimicking this thing all the time? But Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closes soon after this happens, following various reports from patrons that blood, mucus, and foul odors are coming out of the animatronics.
That's lovely. That's
Yeah.
exactly what you want with your pizza too.
It is, right? I mean, let's be honest. We're old enough to have been at restaurants like this. The mucus and odor part is not unusual,
No, that's like part of the
right?
experience. That's
The
what you pay
blood,
for.
the blood, not connected to the ball pit or any of the climbable things. That's suspicious to me.
Yeah, and I guess it's just more like, if it's oozing out of the animatronic, I'm just used to the blood being on another child at one of these places. But
Yeah, yeah. Like these kids ran into each other trying to get to a game. Yeah, a little blood.
yeah, yeah, that's fine. But
Part of the ambiance.
it's when yeah, exactly. It's the price of admission. But wow, this series continues to demonstrate that it is not only the most fucked up thing out there, but it has layers and
It
layers of fucked
does.
upness.
And I think if I'm thinking ahead, this is, I think we're kind of past like, we've officially passed the like murky exposition part. It's just going to be games, 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 games now. The murders have started, the possessions have started.
Well,
Everything's fallen into place, and we're just going to be like, here's what happens in two, here's what happens in one. Here, like, we're going to hit all the games now.
awesome. I mean, I'm excited to see where this keeps going because if it's been anything like this up to this point, I just imagine everyone dies in terrible ways that are alluded to but never actually confirmed in any way. Except
Yeah,
for unless you're a decapitated child in Fazbear's mouth,
I
or
know. Her
you're
little head gets smushed in
yeah. I mean,
Fredbear's mouth.
that's why you don't put your head in animatronic mouths. It's just
You
if your
know,
parents never told you that as a kid, I don't know how to raise you.
it wasn't his choice, you know. I think
It's
the real
true.
moral of the story is don't put your brother's head in a animatronic's mouth.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Siblings can be assholes. And
It
hopefully they
seems
don't kill you.
it really seems they didn't, you know, they didn't adapt all of Edwin's technologies, or that wiggling would have been fine, you know.
Yeah.
So
Maybe that was all part of Afton's plan. He's going for some familicide, and
yeah,
just trying to get his
maybe,
whole family taken out. But um,
maybe.
well, Brie, I'm excited that we've gotten all of the like exposition-y, but like background stuff out of the way. We're going barreling into the game, starting in our next episode. Um, Anything to plug, mention, share before we close out for part two?
Um, Not that I can think of. I was just looking at my like vague outline. I'm like, we're almost halfway, which is crazy. It's crazy how much is like, because the story's so inferred and so like collected over time that now that we're just gonna hit the games, it's like, oh, we're halfway through the story of it. We're just gonna be like, here's some cold hard facts. Boom, boom, boom.
Well, that's right. We're getting ready for put on our fax helmets because the
Yes,
rest of this
yes.
is beyond debate. This has been codified.
It's still it's still debated. It's just
Well, yeah, but
hasn't
that's what
been
fans do.
it hasn't been threatened by new material recently. It's more why it's more confident.
Well, that sounds like there's more threatening to do then because we
There
need to
is.
shake these things up. This is what's going to happen. We're going to finish this. The new movie's going to come out. The new Ultimate God's going to come out, and it's
Yeah,
going to
it's gonna
change
come out a couple
everything.
days before the movie. Yeah.
But the good thing is we'll be able to just go and we'll be able to amend going forward as opposed to having to like retcon everything. It's like, okay, now we just go forward with here's what we know now.
Yeah, we already did the series. Let's redact a little bit of because of some new knowledge. Yeah, for sure. And also, you know, gonna be more concise moving forward, I promise.
Hey, listen, this is the journey. We're all here to take it. So
It's
if you're like me and you're watching this, then you're here because you want to know more about Afton, you want to know more about Murray, you want to know more about bodies, animatronics, dead kids. I mean, all of this is the Sunday,
I
the
guess
scary Sunday I'm looking for.
the
So,
scary Sunday,
Bree,
yeah.
thank you once again for your knowledge and your wisdom, and I can't wait for our part three next week.
Of course. I look forward to it.
Adios.
See ya.